Hey everyone, and welcome to another Konoha Reviews. Today we take a look at a game that has been recommended by multiple viewers in the comments, so definitely don't forget to let me know what game you want to see reviewed on the channel next. The game we take for a loop today is Valiant Hearts: The Great War, released by Ubisoft under the label UbiArt, which would sponsor the creation of several smaller indie titles that move more towards a stigma of an art experience. Valiant Hearts, in its basis, is a puzzle adventure game that tells the tale of the Great War from the very beginning and through the perspective of 4 individuals. When this game was announced, I remember being very excited for it, since the World War I era is something that you see so little in games, since it doesn't lend itself all that well for an action game. A game like Battlefield 1, though very amusing, is horribly inaccurate in its portraying of the weapons and war itself. With Valiant Hearts, the developers promised a journey that would showcase multiple views and perspectives that were honest and historically accurate. And despite the cartoonish style, it would not shy away from the horrors of war in showcasing death, destruction, sickness, and famine. The game starts you out as a mule, an elderly Frenchman who's ordered to serve in the French forces. It actually is a really nice touch to have the game start out like this instead of the battlefield immediately. It gives you time to appreciate the beautiful drawings and style of the game itself. It also establishes by doing this that this game tells a larger story than just the action set pieces. So you sign up and go through training to learn the tropes and controls of the game. It is all very intuitive and the controls are easy to grasp. Another really cool feature that gets introduced during this section is that once in a while, new historical facts get added in your notebook and you can check these at all times. They explain several historical facts, including the background of the war's origins, the circumstances in what the soldiers fought and lived in, the consequences of war on women or regular civilians, and other foreign involvements. All these facts are accompanied by photos that were recreated in color, and all of these facts come back within the game itself, whether it is just a particular monument in the background or a type of soldier that you see running by. A very nice touch, and indeed a sign that the creators did their homework to make the game and its world feel authentic and real. After the training is done, you switch characters and get more accustomed to the adventure type of gameplay of some sections. These non-combat adventure sections are, in my opinion, the best part of the game. They will have you perform certain tasks and look for certain items in order to progress in environments that are all very varied and full of NPCs to liven up the place. From a crowded train station where you need to get rid of some allied soldiers who are bullying one of their own, to preparing a taxi in order to start moving troops towards the front, or trying to find a way to find ink and a feather in order to write a letter in the trenches. These sections reward exploring, and there's no stress of having to avoid guards or waiting for a patrol to head on by. Then there are the sections where you play as the female medic and have control over her car. Now the perspective changes as you move towards the screen, while several obstacles that can vary from other cars to actual bombs need to be dodged. The timing of the appearance of these obstacles is on the rhythm of several classical tunes and is frantic and quite fun. Control-wise, it's all very intuitive, and even when you are accompanied by a German dog, you can control it too and tell it to flip switches or grab items in places that are otherwise inaccessible for regular people. Unfortunately though, most of the time you will be forming puzzles in combat environments that are not very interesting from both a visual aspect and gameplay. Many of these sections involve timed sections where you need to wait for a machine gun to reload before moving to the next point of cover, or wait for a guard to leave his post before moving on. It's very easy but can be a bit boring and tedious as you have to wait and do nothing. Another point of critique is that a lot of the puzzles resort back to pipe puzzles or switches, and they're just simply too boring and too familiar by now. Examples are to find a switch somewhere in the area in order to move pipes in a certain direction to increase the pressure on the machine, or connect dynamite to the correct wires in order to blow up a bridge or other obstacle. Puzzles like these do not have you come up with clever or intuitive solutions like some of the non-combat adventure parts do. For example, in order to get the ink from one of your officers to write a letter, he wants you to bring him new socks. Soon after, you find a pair of really dirty ones. Now he wants clean socks, so you explore the area a bit further and come across a tent where 2 soldiers are washing plates for everyone else. Your first instinct is to dunk the socks in there to clean them, but of course the soldiers get upset as they use the water to clean the plates. So you wait a bit until their backs are turned, and quickly dip the socks in to make them clean. But then, they are of course still wet, and so you soon find a stove which you can lay the socks upon, and they become dry and are finally ready to be exchanged for the ink with the officer. It's so much more of an active puzzle than simply find a switch and turn or move an object to the correct position. We have seen those types of puzzles too many times already, and it's not that interesting. Another aspect that I found disappointing was the portrayal of the German Baron von Dorf, which is basically your big bad guy in this game. With the game promised to deliver a heartfelt, bleak, but realistic vision of the war from multiple aspects, I was very surprised to find that the Baron was nothing more than a cartoonish caricature. All he does is scream and shout, which is sometimes switched off and replaced by an evil grinning James Bond-esque villain. Now of course I don't mind if a character is necessarily portrayed like this. We've had plenty of games with pretty stereotypical bad guys, and some even worked really well in particular games. But what bugs me here is that all of the mumbo jumbo that Ubisoft talked about being a realistic portrayal with stories from all aspects with everyone getting a fair chance. It is true that you also do get to see this from the German perspective through Karl, but there's literally no other character like von Dorf, and he sticks out like a sore thumb and almost conveys as a childish character. Overall, I was quite pleased with Valiant Hearts as a whole, though it is mostly the main characters and non-combatant adventure parts that I find the strongest points. Puzzles where you need to avoid patrols or find and use particular switches in order to progress are unfortunately present way too many times. For those interested in World War I would definitely recommend this though, as it does provide a huge amount of information that is both present in the historical facts archive and visually present within the game itself. For adventure game lovers, it might be a bit too simple, but for those who want to experience a story in quite a unique setting for a game, I say, give it a try. In the end, I give Valiant Hearts a 7.8. The game's presentation is definitely its strongest part, and one can see the effort that was put into the product by the creators. It's not a very lengthy game, and the cheap price makes up for that, delivering it as a fair product that one can purchase safely. I would love to see a similar game in a drastically different setting, maybe the Vietnam War, since there are so many stories ready to be told there as well. But if we ever get a sequel, please do not add as many Switch-focused puzzles in that one.